right?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Your vibe is such a beautiful vibe. You sound like a open-hearted person. I was reading a little on your profile. You're a yoga instructor, a yoga teacher, a certified yoga professional. Beautiful. I'm honored to be here to be talking to you about spirituality, which is the entire universe.
Excellent. Let's discuss a little bit about yourself. Can you tell me your background? What is your spiritual story?
Okay, so I'm a human being having a spiritual experience, or I would say I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. My name is Richa Sharma. I come from a family, a Hindu family of Hindu practitioners into Vedic astrology and practices throughout, from both my father's and mother's sides, paternal and maternal sides. They were priests. So practices, different religious practices, their importance has played a key role in my life. And giving to the society and community has been a very, very strong part of my growing up. My upbringing has been service to community. And I can today say that I'm a founding director of an organization called the Maverick Me organization, the foundation, which is now a 5-year-old foundation here in Canada. Uh, Again, with this foundation, the meaning of the word Maverick Me itself means the free spirit. So the free spirit just knows how to give and to do and to be with the people without any foundations. And I'm a very carefree person who's always believed in the sixth sense and always listened to that voice inside, which is very profound. And by now I think I'm all of that voice, and there's nothing that stops it. So I'm doing whatever I can for the community, for the society, and spend a lot of time to talking to people, figuring out their stories, figuring out lives, figuring out a lot of dimensions in which they seem to be caught up. So that's a little about me. I'm a parent, I'm a daughter, I'm a teacher, I'm a mentor, I'm a guide. Apart from that, in the worldly materialistic spaces, I'm a friend, I am a good partner, I'm an okay human being. I would rate myself 8 on 10.
Wow, amazing, amazing. And I saw your page, Maverick Me Foundation. It's a fascinating foundation. How did you decide to create it? So what is the background story?
I've been always been working with people, even if I would get a salary of some amount, there was always be some amount going out to people. And this foundation came up in December 2022 when COVID hit us all so hard. And, everybody came to that point that they needed to do something that they always wanted to do. And I always wanted to have a foundation or a not for profit organization where I'll just give up my life and work with the people, with the community, understand things. Every time the thought came in, the bread and butter, and that is the time when I found my spiritual my mentor and guide, and she just told me something which just hit me too hard. She says, "Right now is the right time, and who are you to think about bread and butter? That's not your task." The bird just flies out of the nest, thinking, uh, believing, and having faith that she'll get food for the kids. She does. She just pushes the kids out of the nest, knowing that the kids will fly, and they do. So who are we to think whether we'll get the bread and butter or not? Our work is just to focus on doing the thing that we can. And then I studied the Bhagavad Gita with her. And Bhagavad Gita is a Vedic literature that they say that Bhagavad means the God and Gita means the song. So it is the song of God, which actually it is divided into different chapters. It teaches you about karma yoga, it teaches you about life practices, it teaches about what is the difference between being a king and what is your actions. And the entire essence of Bhagavad Gita for me lies in the simple line: you just have to focus on your actions, do what you needed to do. The results is not what you have to look at, your actions is what you need to look at. And the more your actions are devoted to the Lord, devoted to the divine, devoted to the people, devoted to, the more your actions are pure, the more your actions are honest, not manipulative, the more you have love in them, the more you have truth in them, the more light you live in, rest somebody else takes care of everything. So I think that was a life changing. 2020 was life changing for me. I think it was for everybody, and everybody.
Mhm.
I think that crossroad just made things happen for everybody, and I was never the same after that. I was a changed person. So that's where Maverick Me
Mhm.
Foundation came in, and I just opened my doors to all possible partnerships. For people would come. I worked in mental health spaces. We would give out free lunches. We would do events. We would do barbecues. We would just go give out clothes to people. We would just take care of the needy. We would take care of the immigrants, give them food trails. It was everything. We would give out school bags. We would, I mean, just get the community together, send out a message, emailers, somebody needs this, let's do this. Then we started doing formal events. Then we started talking about racism. Then we talked about women's rights. Then we talked about child abuse. I have, being a journalist, I have been journalist all my life. So I've very closely worked with different documentaries on cancers and a lot of work with the sex workers I've done very closely. I think those were some areas that really influenced me as I was growing up. The need. I come from India, in which when I was growing up, we didn't have these many facilities. We were still a part of the developing nation. So I would see that I was given a very good education. I was given education in a convent school. I had Irish nuns as my teachers. And I always thought I was Julius Caesar, the king who would do justice with everybody. But then as I grew up, I realized life was not what we were taught. Life was pain, life was grief. And the biggest teachers were pain and grief. The biggest teachers were not happiness, success, targets, and goals. No, those were achievable. Crossing the pain was way more difficult. Life is not all about tarot cards. Life is not all about just getting your astrology, numerology. I'm a numerologist, I'm an astrologer. I never read my my horoscope. I've never I never read horoscopes of my family members very closely because I believe what is written is written. I can't go change the past. The results of the past are already written there. What I can do is make my karma so strong, make my tomorrow so beautiful that the light takes over every bad, every dark that's even written there. So I'm a very strong believer of light. And my favorite line to everybody, and that's how I close my message, is peace and light. People say, why don't you say happiness? I said, happiness is a state of mind. It's not a state of peace. Today, it's the mind says peace. Tomorrow, the mind is going to say, today it says happy. Tomorrow it's going to be sad. Those are the two sides of the coin, happiness and sadness. I'm looking at constant peace. I'm not looking at happiness. Happiness is temporary. Peace is constant. Peace lives in light, and light is peace. That's what I believe.
Mm, great. And you mentioned Bhagavad Gita, the ancient text, right?
Yes.
And I think in this text there is a lot about your life purpose, a lot about your destiny. So
Yes.
you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do. And my next question to you would be in relation to that part. So we know in Bhagavad Gita, the uh, so there was Krishna who was giving advice to Arjuna, and that helped him to guide his everyday actions. But how do we, normal people, decide or get to know what is our life purpose? Do you have any advice on that?
I'm nobody to be advising anything on that. That's
Yeah.
Lord Krishna. Even before he chose Arjuna as the disciple that he would narrate to the Bhagavad Gita to him, he conducted a test of all the five brothers, which were the Pandavas, that who is actually the most deserving one, which Lord Krishna himself says that knowledge is something that you should deserve. Only when you
Mm,
deserve can you understand it, accept it. So when if you read the Bhagavad Gita, it gives you a very clear outline of Karma Yoga. Karma
mhm,
Yoga. Karma Yoga means how do you daily live your life? And Bhagavad Gita, people generally think it's a religious text. No, it's a life text. It is the best manual. According to a lot of people who really believe in the Bhagavad Gita, they feel that that was the manual given by God to live the life the best way possible. He's laid down what our Bhagavad Gita says, like the question that you mentioned right now, what is the advice for life? Bhagavad Gita gives you the best advice. You have to live by the truth. The truth is not my truth or your truth. The truth is the knowledge that has been imparted in terms. If you ask me a question, Richa, do you have a candy? And I do have a candy, and I say I don't have a candy. Now that's a
Mhm,
lie. I want the I have the candy. Yes, I have the candy, but I can't give it to you.
mhm,
Now, when you're saying the truth, living a truthful life, living an honest life, and loving people without reason. When you have
mhm,
to live your life daily, you stop running away from results, start focusing yourself on actions. So rather than, we most of the time get sad, the grief enters our system because we're too focused on the results. I understand in the larger vision, we need to look at, I need to make $5,000 a month. That's my larger vision. But if every minute I keep thinking about those $5,000 I'm going to make, I'll never be able to focus on my work. So Arjuna, when he was given, narrated the Bhagavad Gita, it was in a war. It was in the middle of a battle when they're standing, the two armies were standing. He says, what do I do? He says, you just do what you are supposed to do. You're a warrior. You just take the bow and arrow in your hands and just do what you have to do. You don't get into, and what is wrong or right, what is wrong and right, you have to listen to your inner voice. That is exactly why we say the value system in your life is very important. How will you know what is wrong and right? The wrong and right will start coming to you once you start practicing a lifestyle which is more simple, more grounded. Your eating habits, in our languages or culture or Hinduism, we generally say satsang. The word sat means pure, the truth. Satsang means good, positive partnerships. Stay with good people. Sattvic food. Sattvic means good food, the food which gives you prana, which gives you energy. So, having a satsang, good people around you, having good food gives your body energy, a good space. It makes your energy a good space. So in Bhagavad Gita, it's very clearly defined. You stay with good people, stay in good company, learn good actions, you will know the right thing itself. The right thing will come to you because your energy will become so positive. You will not attract any positive negative actions. So it is not by experiment or any laid down foundation that, oh, Richa knows to do this or you know how to do this wrong. No, as you start following the path, that's why a lot of people who are very the knowledgeable, the wise say, you walk the path unfolds. The wisdom in itself, as we look at the five layers of our existence, of this human existence. The first layer, the physical body. The second layer, the aura, the energy body. The third layer we look at, is the mind, the heart, the emotions. The fourth layer we look at as the layer of the being of the wisdom. That's where the wisdom of ages of the birth sit. And the fifth, the most inside, is the divine. That's where the God seat is. So as we start getting connected, walk this right path, your wisdom will start opening. So once the wisdom starts opening and it starts connected to the five layers, that's what going inside means. Going inside doesn't mean, oh, do I want salt and pepper more? Going inside is channeling yourself inside. A lot of people ask me, Richa, what does going inside mean? How do I go inside? When you sit silent, you let all the five layers get connected. There's a tunnel that reaches inside you. And that little voice comes out of that tunnel. So the bigger the tunnel, the clearer the voice. So Bhagavad Gita brings out all the properties. It lays down foundation. It tells you the wants and the desires. It tells you about what is a want. It tells you what corrupts your pure form. The Bhagavad Gita says you yourself are God. The Bhagavad Gita says that everybody is the same. We are all God. We are all Krishna. We are all the same. What is different is our wants and desires, which have been accumulated over a period of time. And how will those wants and desires go? We will have to have a proper discipline of cleansing. It's like a glass of water. When we came in, we were a glass of water, and slow and steadily, these karmic exchanges and interactions started creating this. We started pouring those vodka shots, the whiskey shots, the things, and the water started getting corrupt. It started getting bad, and slow and steady. The day we realized there is no water to drink there. This just this just not. It's not worthy. That is the day then we start saying, what do I drink? Nothing is giving me that happiness. Nothing is giving me that peace. That is the day the seeker begins the journey. I need peace. And then he starts cleansing his water. And slow and steady, the wants start going. You start chanting. Everybody finds their way. My journey was chanting. My guru just told me one thing. She says, just pick up that mala. and just go on and on. And that's that day and today. I know if there is a question, if the mind is asking a question, I know I'm going to sit there, I'm going to chant, it will go away. Either the question will go away or the situation will go away, or I will have an answer. So this and it didn't happen overnight. It was a transformation. It was constant pain. There was a lot of trauma. There was childhood trauma. There was heartbreaks. There was everything. I think everybody has the mix. I also got my share of everything. But uh, the day it hit me, I realized that this is not what I want. I've been very popular. I've got a lot of name, fame. I've been there and done that. But there was no peace. There was always this. Um, in the morning would be like, when will the evening happen? In the evening, when would the night happen? In the night, when would the morning happen? So we are all running in that space. Lotto numbers. Will I get this lottery? Will I get this? Will I get this bonus? Will I get this? And then once I got my hands on to Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, that exactly talks what Bhagavad Gita talks. That again, brings a. And then there was a book I read a long time back. It was called Who Will Cry When You Die? This was a
Mhm.
book that made me realize that no matter how many attachments I form, I mean, those are not what I have to live. I have to find that constant, that constant, and we call it the Sat Chit Anand. It means the constant bliss forever, and that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants that constant peace in which I'm sitting here and I'm sitting here. I'm This is here right now. That's what Eckhart Tolle says, the power of right now. That's what Krishnamurti says. You listen to anybody. That's what all these guys, everybody who's a wise person will tell you, focus on right now. This is the moment. So I found my own interesting space there. I says every time a problem comes, it becomes a Netflix series. So I look at life as Netflix series now. If there is a problem, or there's a new series that's come out, there's episode 8 that I'm going through right now. There was a time I've been through my share of bad drugs. I've been there, addictions, but nothing worked because nothing was supposed to work. Even when I was a child, I would see a lot of dead people, my cousins, my relatives. I said, where were you? I was talking to this person, but this person doesn't exist no more. Richa. I said, but I was talking to that person. So the dimensions have been very open with me throughout. My receptivity was open. My energies were very high. People would just get attracted to me. I thought, oh my God, I'm very good looking. No, it was not me. It was the energy that was completely around me. That it was the energy that people would just roll around me like like I was a whirlwind, and they'll be around me. People would just come. I would thought, as a teenager, I thought that, oh, I'm amazing. No. And then slow and steady, I would cry. I would cry like a child because all the energy that I had was depleting, to the point that I realized. That's when my guru to me, he says, Richa, you are a bucket in which there is holes at the bottom. You've got to fill it up, because you are a giver will always keep giving. So your bucket always has to be at least half full all the time. So you have to have a constant discipline of prayers, a constant discipline of keeping those energies all there all the time. And yes, my biggest happiness is being with people. I get a call at 2 o'clock at night. I just get up and say, oh, what is it that I can do for you? I do get scolded by my teacher at times, that Richa, you've got too much into this. You don't take care of yourself at times. But then this is my purpose. This is my life. This is what I'm born for, to give.
Mhm. Well, uh, I have another question to you. So you mentioned astrology as one of the tools you know and use with your clients. And can you tell me a little bit more? How can you help your clients, people around you, with astrology?
Uh, Modern day astrology is divided into two parts, which is the faith and the fear. You will see a lot of mongering
Mhm,
around different social medias. If you don't do this, this will happen. Like today, the entire TikTok is full of Jupiter's gone left,
mhm,
Jupiter's no more retrograde. For me, astrology is to understand the karmic space of this birth. What is what is the blueprint that you're born with?
mhm,
So astrology tells you what is the kind of mother you will have, what is the kind of looks that you will have, how much money you will have. Three things in astrology are very clear. How much, what kind of family are you going to be born into? What kind of, how much month, how much wealth you will enjoy, how much wealth you will have, and third is going to be the date of your death. It's clearly mentioned. The time of your death is clearly mentioned in that chart. So for me, astrology is to understand what are you born for. I believe astrology also gives you a very clear idea of your karmic behavior, your karmic lessons, and karmic journeys that you need to undertake. So rather than telling people, go to the temple, do this, try doing this to make life better, I look at the larger lessons that they need to learn. If there is somebody's having a problem with the child, then there is certain things that have happened in the past birth that are reflecting in the chart that the person is not having a child. Then the marriage of that person possibly could happen with the person whose chart with births of offspring is very, very positive. Then they should have a life partner wherein which has positive situations with the childbirth. So there are a lot of things a chart predicts. So rather than looking at the fear side of it, I look at the positive side of it and how can you make your life better looking at the chart. What are the things that you need to go through? If if there is if your seventh house, which we say is the house of partnerships and your partner and marriage, what are the disputes standing there? And now those disputes have not happened because of your this birth; those have happened because of your past birth. So what is it that you need to resolve there? What is the resolution there? Do you need to get married early? If you're getting married early, and again your patterns. So a horoscope for me is to breaking the cycles and the patterns, because the horoscope blueprint has been prepared because of the lots of past karmic cycles, and a horoscope is basically a chart of lessons that you need to learn. So the moment the first lesson finishes, the second will start. It's like a class, it's like a normal school day. So the entire life pattern is clear. It's clear. It's a beautiful word, in Hindi we call it the prarabdh. It's the destiny is clear, it's mentioned, it's there. Now how you play it out, do you accept it? Do you want to be a victim? Do you want to have, so if you don't be a victim, you be a positive person, you do your prayers properly, you accept it and let it pass, then you create positive karma. If otherwise, this will keep, the pattern will keep going on and on. Astrology, numerology, whether you talk about tarot, all these are just blueprints of what is going to happen. But my question to everybody who believes in astrology is, what will you do after you know what will happen? What will you do? Will you start getting into the fearful exercises? Because the point is, there is a discipline for prayers, there is a discipline of faith there. How are you practicing of faith? Most of the people go to different astrologers. Will I get my love back? Ask the question, why am I not getting constant love? Why am I not getting a normal? What is it wrong with my chart that my marriages are not successful? Now that is what you need to resolve. Will he come back? Will she come back? Will, so if if you are getting, if three of your kids when they were born, they were sick or they were not, then there is something wrong in that with your karma that needs to be corrected. So astrology shows you your past that you've done. What is it that you have to go through? You have to learn those lessons, practice them, accept them, surrender, and then the moment you surrender and accept them, that I have to go through this, the lesson will be over. The cycle will break. So if you go to an astrologer and you ask him, this is what I'm going through, how do I get out of this? Rather than, astrology is long term because it takes care of your entire life. It's not right now. You're going to Jupiter retrograde, everybody was feeling very choked up, everybody's energies were very tight. Right now, Mars is also going through a retrograde. A lot of people will feel a lot of aggression. Being the number nine, this is the year of the Mars. A lot of people feel lot of, there'll be a lot of aggression, there'll be a lot of passion. Now, how do you channelize it? Yes, it is the year of the Mars in 2025. Is it the year of the Mars, number nine? We all know it's number nine. Now what will happen? How does that reflect with you? What will you do to get the benefits of the number nine? Are you ready to do that? Will you do that? Or will you go to the first astrologer, second astrologer? Everybody will tell you almost the same thing. And then you will end up saying, oh, he took $20 from me, he didn't tell me the right thing. The doctors, if you have a problem, the diagnosis is going to be the same everywhere. That's what astrology is. If the body doctor is a if medical doctor, then astrologer can be your karmic doctor. But would you do what he tells you to do? And I think astrologers, when you're an astrologer, you're very responsible because you're talking about faith, you're talking about karma, you're talking about And these kind of things can strongly impact people. People can actually get into very different difficult cycles if you don't, if you're not the right person. That's why a lot of astrologers just keep minting money from people. I have a lot of people I speak to. I don't take anything for any first sessions. If you think you need to have a second session, or you, then whatever you want to pay. I've never said that this is the amount that I would take. Pay whatever you want to, because uh, astrology is not my bread and butter, because I was brought up with astrology. It's like a farmer's daughter is brought up with the farm equipment. I was brought up with astrology and numerology in my family. But you have to be very, very careful with your astrologer. What you bring back from the astrologer, you have to be very committed to it. There has to be a discipline in everything, because karmic lessons have to be have to be planned out. It's like it's like a medical, like you take tablets morning, afternoon, evening. Similarly, there has to be a proper way to practice them. So if the practice is from one astrologer to another, from one numerologist to the other, from one tarot card reader to another, you will not end the cycle. The cycle will end when you start the treatment.
Amazing, amazing. So it's so interesting, and my podcast is called Discover Your Divine Talents, and I created this podcast for a reason, because I was always struggling with discovering myself, my talents. And I also know a lot of people my age, my friends, who are lost in life, and who are just looking for their own path. So what actions they can do to make the world a better place, to do a little bit of goodness to our society, helping people. And do you think astrology or any other method can help people to discover their divine talents?
I think we are all divine. There is no doubt about that. We all have the light. We are breathing. That means that the drop, we are the drop of the ocean. So whether you put the cloth in the water or water in the cloth, it's the same thing. Water is the divine light, cloth is us. So we all have that. Now, when I started this journey, and the same questions when I was looking at what do I need to do, what are my divine talents, how do I do? The first thing that we all have to do is that we are not saints or ascetics that will go to the jungles or go to the Himalayas or start practicing there. The first thing is that we have to know that every blood relation that we have is a give and take relationship. They're all our creditors or debitors. We have to make peace with our relationships, especially our mothers.
Mhm.
Even when you're born, you are decided which mother you will come to. You're not decided with your father, you're decided with your mother. So there are a lot of people out there, which I will really request this. A lot of people out there who, don't talk to their mothers. You have to be great. Your gratitude is very important towards your mother. In astrology, moon is your mother, is emotions, is your mother. Till the time your relationship with your mother is not constant, not honest, not truthful, your emotions will not settle. And as I talk about the 5 layers of the human, we have to just understand what is it that is you are aligning with. If you are a yoga practitioner, if you eat light food, you eat sattvic food, you eat vegetables, and you have the prana food that you will consume, the mudras and the postures and things that you will do are going to be easy. You'll feel light in the body. So consuming too much of alcohol for you at some point of time, you will not be able to get out with the same energy and the same peace that you will do that. A lot of people want to have it all. That's what my point is. Everybody wants to do, everybody wants everything. We are all born for different journeys. Everybody has a different divine tool. My tool could be engaging with people, being a consultant, talking to them, doing community activities. I run a program called the Meaningful it's called the MEMS, Meaningful Existence in Meaningful Spaces. It talks about how can you better your day-to-day life. And I've taken the understanding from the Bhagavad Gita when I framed out this program, which means do your bit as a mother, do your bit as a friend, do your bit as a wife. And you should know that everything that you do is of the being. This being is doing. So the first love that we all have to do is with ourselves. Self-love is not going to the salon or the parlor. Okay, that is it. But accepting your own truths. If you accept that you have an addiction, go treat yourself first. If you're not treating your addiction, We all get onto the social media spaces. We are writing big things, but begin with I. The seeker's journey begins with the seeking. Seeking will not begin till the time the I doesn't open up. We have to open up right here. And the right way to find our divine tools is first to find I. First, Krishna found Arjuna, and then the bow and arrow came. First, find yourself. Your divine energies will play out just like that. Whether you are whether you are a person who has healing powers in your hand, or whether you have healing powers in your eyes, or where you can just sit with people and make their things okay. I get to, God forgive me for saying this. I'm not, I mean, this is a little religious practice for me, but not many times I go sit with people, I talk to them. They just call me up, Sricha, can you just talk to me for a minute? My work is stuck. Just talk to me. And and then I get a call back. Oh, it's done. I said, but what was the task? He said, no, I just needed to speak to you. I was stuck up somewhere. I knew I just needed some energy. Solve it. So when people who start practicing divinity, who start celebrating their lives, their presence, their opportunity, we are an opportunity on this planet. We have to walk towards nirvana. We have to forget. A lot of people say there's Hinduism, there's Sikhism, there's Jainism, there's Christianity. To everybody in that space, I respect every religion. I was brought up. My best friends are Sikhs. My and Muslims. I eat out of my friend. She makes me amazing vegetables. I was born in a Christian school. I'll respect all religions, but the religion will only take you to the parking lot. What happens in the playground inside is how you handle that light, how you play on those in that ground. So once the divine holds your hand, he will not see whether I'm a Christian or a Hindu or a Sikh or a Buddhist or a Jain. No, that is just the road to reach there. And once you've entered the arena, that's where the real play begins. Nobody wants to know what they're. When you are one with the light, when you enter the ocean, the river doesn't have a name. The ocean has the name. It's the ocean. It's the water there. So I think too much of confusion on this practice or that practice. The moment you start practicing grounding, you start connecting with your inner self, your divine powers will start coming out. And once those divine powers start coming out, you and I, we will, nobody will need to listen to us. They will tell us. The beauty of light is that the moment something is lit, it's there. We don't, the sun is there, the sun is there. And you will start feeling the energy of that space. So, my advice to everybody who's confused is to sit with yourself, to give yourself every day minimum of 10 minutes. That's how I started my practice. I used to give, when I started my, when I, 2016, when uh, I got into a very difficult situation, people call it the twin flame journey. So everywhere I would see this number 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11. And I didn't know till the time something like twin flames existed or not. And thereafter, I started realizing that this was the alignment number. It was not the twin flames number, which means I needed to have that heartbreak. I needed to break myself. And somebody who broke me so bad. The dagger went in so deep. The hurt that I can give myself, nobody can give me that hurt. And when I got that hurt, when the dagger hit me that deep, that is when I opened myself. So slow and steady. I used to sit with myself 11 minutes every day. I took that 11 very seriously. Every day, 11 minutes, I would sit in the evening, take my chant beads with me, and then 11 to, and thereafter it changed and changed, it changed. And people would ask me, what's wrong with you? 2016 onwards, the way life has opened up, the way things have happened, I have no explanations. All I can say is I had a very, very miraculous life. A lot of things in my life, I have no explanations for them. And it's not about me. Anybody who follows this path, if they follow it with discipline. You want to be a doctor, you have to have some study discipline. You want to be an architect, you have to be. So if you want to open up yourself, are you having that engagement with the divine? Are you sitting there with appointment? You ask somebody, did you chant? Oh, I was driving in the car, I was listening to this. No. Are you giving that appointment to yourself? Are you giving that appointment to your inside? Are you talking to yourself? Are you sitting there and giving yourself that engagement? Are you engaging with your own inside? Are you asking your inside to help you? Because only your inside can help you. Because all the triggers that come from outside, are the ones are the problem with the problem with somebody screaming at you. I am sitting in a very nice mood. Somebody comes and says something to me. What happens to me? Something inside is bothering, right? So the trouble is inside. The trouble is not outside. My mom screamed at me. I felt bad. Figure out what is it that felt bad. And when you start giving engagement to yourself, that light will start spreading inside you. The triggers will go away because what they are triggering will go away. Anger will go away. The anguish will go away. Stop denying yourself of happiness. We are constantly living in this active denial. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm cool. I'm chill. I've got friends. No, you don't need to validate me. You need to validate yourself, my friend. Identify your triggers. Identify what's triggering you. When you sit down there for 11 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever time, I would say 11 minutes because it takes you a little time to get into that space. And once you sit there, slow and steady, you'll reach a point where those you'll smile to those triggers. Same person, same situation, same communication, you will smile. But are you giving yourself that time? Are you disciplined about that? No. I'll go to my social medias, look at 20,000 reels, right? Do TikTok, but 11 minutes, 10 minutes? No. I can't talk to myself. I can't sit lonely. Those are the statements I get. I can't be alone. That inside noise. You have to engage with that inside. That's where the peace will come from. Your engagement only when you are peaceful inside will be a good mother, will be a good father, will be a good anything. A good man will always be a good everything. A happy person will only give us happiness. You will give what you have. That my advice would be give yourself disciplined engagement with yourself and you see and within I promise you 11 days 11 minutes if it doesn't change come back to me. I will give you $11.
Sure, yeah. I think it's really powerful. Yeah.
But we don't engage. We don't engage. The problem is we talk, we don't engage, we don't communicate with ourselves, and it
Mm.
feels pity because this is an opportunity. You can't. It's your inside is not asking for money. You can go watch a 3 hours movie, but when it comes to engagement, sitting on the chair peacefully, sitting on the ground in a grounded moment, the moment you sit on the ground, your chakras start opening, your fear starts going away, your bitterness starts going away. Sit on the floor, eat food, you will realize when you eat food with your hands, the kind of energy that you will feel. The food is going to feel positive. Your hunger is going to increase, your appetite is going to get better. It's a very beautiful thing. A lot of people say, why do Buddhists and specifically Chinese use wooden sticks to eat, chopsticks? They're like extended fingers.
Mm.
So there are a lot of practices. If you actually start looking in those practices, you realize that grounding is a very, very simple and it's a free process. You don't need to pay anybody. Start doing it with yourself. And once you graduate to a little more level, get a little discipline, find a mentor, find a guy. I had a very difficult spiritual teacher. She's a professor. And she started her journey pretty soon. And I would say she's an enlightened soul today. And lot of spaces where and we don't talk every day. We are it's a connection wherein the question comes and I sit with it. If I don't get an answer, probably I get a call from her around within a week or so, and then without even telling the question, the answer comes in. So I think all this can happen with everybody. The first thing is engage, open up yourself, open the locks inside.
Amazing. Yeah. Uh, Another question to you would be, so I completely agree with going inside, and for me the transformation happened also around COVID times. That's when I started regular meditation because I had more time, and it was a lockdown here. And of course, definitely first time deeply engaging with myself. I experienced profound realizations and really interesting experiences, spiritual experiences of peace and quiet, and even creativity, spontaneous creativity, and just really miraculous things. But for me, the challenge was, so after all these experiences, when I would get out into the world and meet my colleagues, experience real life situations, that would be very hard. So to go from this divine experience almost to real life challenges and problems and sometimes battles in life, do you have any recommendations for new emerging spiritual seekers how to balance these experiences?
I think that all of us go through these situations wherein we have to detach. Once we start growing spiritually and evolving and connecting with ourselves, a lot of friends will go away.
Hmm.
Lot of relatives will go away. A lot of people who mattered, we will not be able to communicate with them because you are definitely at a very different vibe. So what I started practicing was I started drawing my boundaries. You have to have very clear boundaries. And I gave myself a very simple solution. When I go, my real self is this. My real self is not people. My reality is this. My reality is not people. My reality is not circumstances. So I switched the game. I switched the game from the reality. This is my full time. My peace, my spirituality is my full time. Material world is something that I have to engage. So I reduced and created boundaries of engagement. I would
Hmm.
not want to be a part of every social gathering because I didn't want anybody's approval to live today. So those as those vibes changed, as my energy changed, I was not a party animal because I had nothing to do with drugs, alcohol, nothing at all. So my full time became spirituality, and my bread and butter became the material world. Now, if you're a spiritual being, that doesn't mean you're not supposed to party. Please go ahead and party. You're supposed to have picnics. You can go hiking. You enjoy nature. You do all of that. But but constantly, I was constantly engaged with the light inside, which means my chant goes in 24 into 7. I'm talking to you right now, but there's a chant going inside me. And
Hmm.
that I realized that I went through a very toxic work situation, and very it was very tough. It was very, very tough. So the chant went, I mean, I understood that the only thing that was helping or keeping me grounded, keeping me rooted. So I think we have to switch the game. When you go, it's like, for me, everything became, my reality was me. Rest, everything was like going and watching a movie. You don't get attached to the movie. And detachment started happening very quick, very quick. I started getting detached very quick, very, very quick, to the fact that my uh, today I can proudly say that I'm a very detached person. I love people. I have a lot of love, but no relationship stands in my life which is conditional today. And I'm very proud of that, because the moment I feel that this is an expectations based relationship or a friendship, I withdraw myself. I my biggest challenge at times is to, I do get into a space of isolation at times, but I choose that. I choose my peace over everything. I choose my peace over, I've chosen my peace over the job. I've chosen my peace over love. I've chosen my peace over relationships, because I very strongly believe my purpose here is not to have this relationship, this relationship, this relationship. No. Everybody will move on, whether it's my child, whether it's my partner, whether it's love, everybody will move on. What is constant is me. A lot of people say that I've become very selfish, I've become very self-centered. No, I love myself. And it's after a lot of difficulty that I've come to sit here, because I have to love myself. I have to keep that energy here. So when I walk out of my house, I ask for more energy. I ask for more strength to engage with people, at the same point of time, not and disengage with them. So I go step into that space, but I don't bring anything home. I, I've kept my boundaries very clear. Nothing over a period of time. The vibe I've tried to maintain is wherein people who have those, no gossip, no bad mouthing, no lies, no cheating, no stealing, no taking extra some favors, no eating free anywhere. No, and it's a little strict thing, but I try not to gather any extra karmic exchanges with anybody. The moment somebody's ready to fight, I withdraw. I don't want to fight. Sorry, it's kind of my mistake. I withdraw. My task as a spiritual being, which I follow very seriously, the first moment I realize that I have the knowledge and I have to tell you that you're doing wrong, I go ahead and do it once. And then it's your choice. You are my friend. I will tell you what you're trying to do is wrong. It's completely your choice. And I dedicate, I surrender, I put every action that I do into light. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. For me, sorry is not a very difficult thing. I've understood that everything that happens in my mind has to be silenced in the mind. So I don't bring anything home. The smaller circle you have, the lesser friends that you have, the more meaningful relationships that you have, the meaningful people that you have. Biggest problem of today's society is being a people pleaser. Validation, social media I did close all social media accounts. I have no. I think Instagram is the only social media handle that I have. That is also for my family and my closest friends. Apart from that, I am not available in any. I do not engage with social media. My phone is very limited. I take 2 to 3 calls in a day. I don't go to malls every day. I keep my energy very, because again, this is the real thing. This is the real deal. If you're actually into spirituality, and if this is, I understand for a family, for a homemaker or a mother or a wife, it becomes difficult. But for her, it's very important to keep her energies even more positive, because the kids, the family, everybody needs her energies. So for every, I would request all homemakers out there, for all professionals, to have a very serious, disciplined routine of working on their vibe. We work on resumes, we work on our profiles, we work on our LinkedIn profiles, we worked on everything. What about working on your vibe? Your, your vibe, your body, your food systems. You eat leftovers, you eat dead energies. A lot of people, you've not asked this question, but I would want to tell you,
Mhm.
to share this with you, that a lot of people ask me that, what is wrong with the non-vegetarian food? Nothing is wrong. There's nothing wrong in right. When you consume dead meat, it goes into your body. There is a grief, that emotion that meat carries. There's a grief, there's a pain that is carried into that meat, into that flesh, that gets into your system. Then after this, the next question is, even vegetables are killed. They are plucked. Well, my friend, plants live with one emotion, that is give. The plants have a giver emotion. So in the ecosystem, everybody who's born has plants don't have mind, they just have giver emotions. The more plants you will consume, the more bigger a giver you will become. And saints, in fact, in ancient times would just eat plants, would eat fruits that would just fall full ripe. They would just consume that. They would not even pluck, because they did not want any karmic exchange. So every minute we are into a karmic situation. It becomes difficult, but detachment is what we need to practice the most. People say, oh, how can I be detached? I'm a mother. A mother needs to be detached. Only then when the children will understand what is detachment, and how do they work on their relationships. The more conditional the relationship, the more weaker the relationship. The more unconditional the relationship, the better the detachment, the more emotionally free the child is. Don't do it for me because you love your mother. Do it because if you do it, your mother is going to be very happy for you. Conditions, everything is terms and conditions apply. Just leave the conditions. So there's a story in the Sanatan culture in which there was a lady called the Ma Madalsa, and she's supposed to be considered as the best mother ever, because she raised her kids to attain moksha. She says, I will never make them kings. She was married to a king, but she told the king that I don't want I will raise kids the way I want to. So she would tell them the harsh truths as lullabies, that you will die one day. This body is not worth anything. Your pleasures, body pleasures, are not worth anything. The real thing is understanding the truths of life. So she would actually narrate the real hard truths to them, even in lullabies. So her lullabies are very popular in ancient South India. A mother is the one who makes sure that the kids are brought up in a manner in which they are sane individuals. A woman has to have that vibe. She has to have that energy, the booster energy, to give it to everybody in the family. We consider a woman, do you know, oh, she's a homemaker. No, she is a homemaker. She's the one who makes the entire home a home, four walls a home. kids come to her, what have we cooked? And so I think the responsibilities today of this, the Gen Z, the millennials, the Z's, all these things is the mother needs to needs to step up the role, include uh, spirituality. We are all spiritual. We have a choice of being religious or not, but we are all spiritual. Even if we are dead, we are spiritual. If we are alive, we are spiritual. Religious or not could be a choice.
Yeah, my next, thanks, Richa. My next question would be in relation, it's a complex question. It's about loneliness and spirituality and connection to other people. So uh, I will start with the idea that, many yogis in India, in ancient India, they retreated to Himalayas, or they retreated to the mountains or remote areas to meditate, to be away from people. And these days, of course, we can't live these lifestyles. So many of us live in big cities, and we have jobs, careers, and mortgages, and lots of things we
Yes.
work on. And so how can we maintain the peace of mind? That's one thing, but also does following the spiritual path means that we will always be lonely, or we will feel lonely because of the lack of connection to other people? And as you said before, as we become more spiritual, some of our friends will disappear. Eventually we'll lose connection to some people. So do you think spirituality will lead us to being more lonely, or what do you think about that?
The journey that I've undertaken from my physical and my experience in life, and I was one of the people's person. I would never sit at home. So I would be always out, picnics, excursions here and there. Spirituality doesn't let you be lonely. It takes you to a different light where you just smile. You are so full of everything. If it takes two friends out of that zone, it will give you it will give you substantial more than two that. It will give you so much of smiles over there. It will get you five people which value. So you take those friends who were bringing toxicity in your life. It will bring you people who really mean a lot to you, who will change your life. So spirituality is not loneliness. Spirituality is that complete peace. In yesteryears, the sages would go, and that's exactly what Bhagavad Gita explains when Arjuna says, if fighting is not important, this is not important, truth is not important, why are we fighting? We should all become sages. He says, no, karma yoga. Staying in this materialistic world, detached to the materialistic pleasures, but enjoying them at the same point of time is real karma yoga. That is the real testing time. Enjoy what you have, not ask for more, not be desperate for more, to enjoy my right now. Problem is, I have had a pizza, I've enjoyed my pizza, but I want another one. Now that another one will just create it's going to get upset my stomach, will get more money out of my pocket, but I want another pizza. So to draw a line, what I want and what I need, these two concepts needs to be understood very beautifully. What is the need and what is the want? Like I tell my daughter most of the times, you will get what you need, but you will not get what you want, because you at this age you don't know what you want, because you would want that everybody else has got, but do you need it? No. So the difficult situation that you said we are standing in today is balancing the material and the spiritual spaces. Trust me, spirituality, once you walk on the path of spirituality, the balance will come on its own. And the balance will be so beautiful that all the once you start walking this road, I'm sure you've experienced this, the wrong kind of people which would make you lie, which would make you do wrong things will go out. And some beautiful people will start entering your life, which will start making small things meaningful. Your perspective will change to life. What was yesterday's beautiful things is not going to be today's. What was what was value yesterday will not be value today. A diamond necklace value would would not be that important than sitting in an orphanage and next to an autistic child and talking and listening to his little mumbling words. So the joys of life, once you become a spiritual being, the joys of your life will change. What gives you peace will change. And what gives you peace will change, your vibe will start attracting what you need. Like we say, your vibe attracts your tribe. So initially, your vibe will start attracting your tribe, and then there is going to be one stage wherein you will not need a tribe also. You will yourself become your own tribe. You will yourself become a congregation of people inside you talking, because there will be so many discussions happening inside you. So there's a beautiful story of these two saints, and both of them were like enlightened soul, and one of them was singing in the jungle, and the disciple of one listens to them and says, "Oh, that's a beautiful voice." He says, "Why don't you call him to our rest house? We'll listen to his songs and we'll, sit together and have some good food." So they go and request the saint. One saint's followers go and request the other saints, "Why don't you come?" So he comes, and both the saints are sitting next to each after he sang the song, listening to the songs and enjoying. So after that, they've had their food. They just sat there. They sat there for an hour. And once the saint, and then they got up, and the saint got up and says, "Okay, then we'll leave," and then leaves. So the followers ask the disciples ask the saint. He says, "Why didn't you guys talk?" He says, "There was nothing to discuss. We were in complete agreement with what the other was saying. Why do we need friends whom we call friends? Why do we need people to talk, to discuss, to depend, when you yourself are your friend, your love, your dependence, your own being? Where is loneliness?" Once you start
Um,
listening and introducing your own self to the inside, the, the outside noise will not matter. It will not even bother. It's like even if it's snowing outside, it's it's all soundproof. The inside is beautiful. So spirituality is not loneliness. Spirituality is a melody which, once it starts taking over, it's an addiction. I've known of people who are not able to even pick up a glass of alcohol, even a glass of wine, because they have to go home and sit in their chants. Because if they once they do that, they don't even need that glass of alcohol. They have to do that before they sleep, because the moment they finish their chants, they're like, "Oh my God, the sleep that I had is the best." I've known of people who one fine day just come to me and says, "I no longer feel like smoking. I feel when I'm chanting, my breath goes out. So if I stop smoking, will my chanting become better? Will I start feeling that minute of connection, and that craving for that connection takes you somewhere else?" And I think spirituality, if you're actually getting into that space, it's not loneliness, it's bliss. It's infinite bliss. That's what my experience is. I think everybody's had their experiences, but spirituality is definitely not loneliness. It's Loneliness is when there is somebody else. That's duality. Spirituality is oneness, non-duality. There is nobody else. It's just oneness.
wow, that's so profound, right? Yeah. So my next question, I'm aware of time, so and I think that would
Go ahead.
be my last question. Um, what are your three most favorite spiritual books that you could recommend to our audience today?
I think the first book which I would recommend everybody to read is the Bhagavad Gita. Forget that it's any religious text or anything. There are a lot of versions available. The YouTube is full of them. It's English. It's in every language. Just go to that and listen to the crux of the chapters. And there's a chapter 2 and chapter 3. If you read them, you will understand and have answers to everything that you are talking about. Anybody who is wanting to get onto the spiritual part, because you will understand the difference of what you think and what it is. What is my truth and what is the real truth. And once you understand what is the real truth, your life is going to become very easy. I think that's one book. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Definitely, that book just opens up yourself to a it opens you to a different paradigm of, because your tomorrow planning, future, that tells you right here, right now. And probably one book which I started reading when I started exploring and understanding the spiritual world was The Laws of the Spirit World. It talks about all the realms. It talks about before death, after death, what is karma, what are different emotions, what is the difference between ego, self-respect, self-esteem. Actually it breaks down all the emotions which actually should be taught in school. So for anybody who's walking on this path of spirituality, laws of the spirit world is a very good. It it's basically kind of a it's a book supposedly written in automatic writing. It was narrated. It's said to be narrated by two sons who died in an accident to their mother, and she's written it down. So she's beautifully explained, and it tells you exactly of how karma unfolds, what is karma. So anybody who's on this path, I think these three books, and there are autobiography of a yogi out there, and then conversations with God, and then is somebody who's interested in hypnotherapy, could be Brian Ware's many lives, many masters. So there is too much world out there. But for the first and the foremost, just restrict the information. Too much of information is coming in, and too much of information we are going on experimenting. Dive in. Everything is right here. The information, the wisdom of births is there. At times you will feel that sitting with a lawyer, you realize you know more because you were a lawyer in some birth. So the wisdom is all there. The moment you start connecting, your books will start coming to you. And I'm not books will start coming into your life. There was an Indian yogi, Jiddu Krishnamurti, J Krishnamurti. He was born in South India. There's a lot of books on his life stories. He's written, his lectures have been translated into different languages. He's given lectures on loneliness, relationship, death. If you really go by, and he used to believe that spirituality is cannot never be understood from the perspective of religion. Spirituality has everything to do with action, karma, and fearlessness. The more fearlessness you expand yourself into, the more uh, action oriented you become. Because once you've done something, you will not be fearful because you know that you've done something. So I think there are a lot of people out there who's written a lot of good stuff, but everybody has their own experiences. And I think spirituality is each one to their own because we have our own lessons, we have our own wants and desires. Everybody wants some people like dark chocolate, somebody like chili chocolate, somebody. So I think spirituality is not of what could be for me, it could not be for you. You could be, it's like a different level, a different game, a different area altogether. What is your lesson could not be my lesson. If Jupiter retrograde is good, maybe Jupiter retrograde is good for somebody, not good for somebody else. So I think you get the knowledge and don't get into too much information. For anybody on the spiritual path, switch off from the social media. That's the first thing that they need to do. Get inside, figure out, get your balance in place. Once you get your balance in place, your vibe in space, blow it out. Then go out. Go inside, then go out. So from outside, what goes inside will never benefit. From inside comes out is going to benefit. The books will come to you, the people will come to you, the miracles will come to you, the places will come to you, the money will come to you, the cars will come to you. A lot of people say, oh, healers also need money, they also need bills. They need to pay the bills, the money will come into their pocket. So alignment is everything. Karma is everything. It's all planned, it's all destined. We are just to do our little bit. That is just to do positive karma. Give love, walk on the path of righteousness, do the right thing, give smiles, look at strangers, know that they're not strangers. Everybody who's meeting us for a reason. Keep yourself out of gossip areas, be positive, be happy, help people. Don't get abused, don't get used, know your limits, boundaries. And I think you yourself is the best book if you can read yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. It's such a powerful message. Thank you so much for this discussion. It's really inspiring to me. So I learned myself a lot from our discussion today, and I think the viewers definitely will learn a lot too.
It was a great opportunity, Alina. Thank you so much. When you're born to do something and that's what you are doing, every minute of this past 1 hour meant a lot to me because even if one person gets the message, even if one person sits in those 11 minutes and starts sit with themselves and talk to themselves, I think this 1 hour is worth it. Every minute of it is worth it. God bless you. Stay in light, walk on alignment, have a lot of peace, keep smiling. You have an amazing smile. God bless you. And anytime you want, we can chat on very specific things. We can keep a one for the Bhagavad Gita whenever you want. We can do that. And we can pick up a book and talk on that because I've realized that you love books and you've been reading a lot of books. And I think hypnotherapy is again one very strong area which people need to be educated on because a lot of people are just getting into hypnotherapy just like that. They're not realizing that they themselves can open themselves. They don't need anybody else to open themselves. It's a hard drive. You just need to open that hard drive and read what's there. The files are all accessible. You just need to change the layer and the dimension.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me and taking this time to some really good use.